Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyagena yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjali dhanatosmi stuve Patanjalim vyasam shankaram cha munitrayam kartru sutrasya bhashyasya krimat vivaranasya cha. So in the 12th sutra, Patanjali explains how we can slowly stop misidentification with the modifications that arise in our mind. This is a context. Normally in our life, whatever we see, we hear, we touch, we smell, we taste, all these experiences create a kind of misidentification in our mind. We forget what we are and we identify ourselves with what we see, and then we become happy or unhappy. We become either depressed or jubilant. So all these emotional impulses like waves affect our system, and we live as the slaves of external impulses, external objects. The only way out of this problem is to practice two fundamental disciplines that Patanjali calls Abhyasa and Vairagya. Constant effort to stop this misidentification with the modifications or vrittis that arise in our mind. I already give some examples. In our everyday life situations, we often forget what we are and we identify ourselves with what we see. And then as we identify with what we see, we sometimes misunderstand ourselves to be the product of the impulse or external objects. So external experiences, instead of becoming tools in our hands, we become tools of external experiences. We become slaves of external objects. And so long as we are not able to control our mind, we become slaves, and then we become happy and unhappy. So Patanjali says this problem can be averted by this practice of abhyasa. Abhyasa means constant effort to stop this misidentification with demodifications or vrittis that arise in our mind. That's a conclusion, tannirodha. So, and then 13th sutra we already explained. This effort is called abhyasa, and then Patanjali stated in the 4th sutra, this should be practiced for a long time. At the same time, it should be continuous. At the same time, this discipline, this spiritual discipline, should be practiced with love and affection and a sense of honor and respect for this great spiritual discipline. When we develop a joy in practicing this discipline, then we will be able to practice it for a long time. Whenever we can enjoy what we are doing, there is much less strain, much less effort. Work may be there, effort may be there, but we won't feel it. So the 14th sutra has got a great psychological significance. Satu dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevito dridhabhumi. You get established in this practice when you do it for a long time. And again, continuous, without any break. Any break can create problems. We can see in our own life when we try to meditate. Suppose we create an excuse. That's the trick that mind sometimes plays with us. If there is a way, well, I need not meditate for 3 days because I have extra work in the office. Or some other excuse. In fact, that becomes an excuse because our mind refuses to practice with continuity. That's the main reason. So when the mind is unwilling, it itself projects some excuses. It gives some logical reason for not practicing. And then that takes the form of external excuse. Now, this problem can be solved only by intense love and affection for what we are doing. This is a great principle that is found in all mystical and devotional traditions. Whether you pray, whether you meditate, whether you practice reading of Holy Scriptures, if you do it as a mechanical practice, there's a problem. Sometimes when there's a slight inconvenience, that inconvenience becomes a great excuse. And on the basis of that, we stop practicing that. Therefore, we must have a great love. We must respect. That actually, Satkara Asevidaha means you must honor. Give honor. Give respect to this great spiritual discipline. Which means we must love, we must enjoy doing spiritual practices. That's the most important thing. And without love, without affection, we cannot meditate every day without a break for a long time. Dirghagala means long time. Nairandriya means like, when you pour oil from one vessel to another vessel. There is no break. If you pour grain, there could be break. If you pour pieces of stone from one container to another container, there will be breaks. But if you pour oil, there will be no break. It's almost like solid. Like that's called continuity or continuousness, whatever you may call. So this can be practiced only if we love, if we enjoy doing meditation. In the 15th Sutra, Patanjali explains the importance of non-attachment. So, attachment for a higher goal. It's a very important psychological principle. A very serious question that all students of yoga, spiritual disciplines, generally ask. When you talk about non-attachment, sometimes our mind plays a nasty trick. Going beyond a limit, we will ask the question, then we should not be even attached to spiritual practices. That question arises. So, because vairagyam is the meaning non-attachment. Here, non-attachment towards non-spiritual, empirical, worldly ideas. That's the true implication of this word, vairagyam, non-attachment. So, this non-attachment towards empirical, worldly things, worldly objects, can be practiced if you have attachment to a higher goal. Really speaking, mind cannot be kept in a neutral position anytime, especially for a spiritual aspirant during the beginning stage. We try to practice keeping mind in neutral position. Suddenly you find it is impossible. Mind always needs a focus. Without a focus, mind cannot remain for a long time. It needs to objectify something outside. A focus, an object of concentration. So, instead of allowing the mind to focus on mundane, empirical, worldly objects, you should encourage the mind to focus on a sublime, higher spiritual goal. That will help us to keep away from lower points of focus. So the best way not to go to the east is to keep moving to the west. If you move in any other direction, you may not be moving away from the east. So if you want to move away from the east, but the best thing to do is concentrate on keeping towards west. So, to focus on higher spiritual goal, we must try to stop focusing on lower spiritual goals. That's why this non-attachment is given a very elaborate treatment in the commentaries on yoga philosophy. according to yoga philosophers, there are 3 stages before you reach the highest level of non-attachment. Slowly you move away from lower levels of attachment, and finally mind gets completely detached from all external worldly objects, and at the highest stage you feel that you are not a tool in the hands, you are not a slave of your senses, rather senses are within our control. We feel that we are not under the control of the senses, but senses are under our control. It is called Vashikara Samjna Vairagyam, 15th Sutra. Now, after reaching this stage, we had to turn to the philosophical, the cosmological aspects of yoga philosophy, because that is very, very important. That's what we are dealing with. As I said, some of you who may have studied yoga, Hatha Yoga, may not be aware that there's a great, and highly intricate and very rational philosophical superstructure behind this practice of standing on our heads. Because this is a very, very small, maybe insignificant part of the entire phenomenon called yoga. Many of you may not be fully aware of this. So I shall try to give a brief idea of the philosophical landscape of yoga philosophy. As I said in the very beginning, yoga and Sankhya, these are the 2 schools of philosophy which are allied to each other. Yoga is the practical aspect, Sankhya is the metaphysical, philosophical aspects. Now, in the Sankhya system, there are 2 fundamental categories. Sankhya system has got 2 fundamental categories. Remember, the Sankhya philosophical system doesn't project a creator God. It doesn't negate it. Some philosophical commentators on Sankhya system and yoga system tried in later centuries to give it a God-negating dimension. But great commentators like Vijnana Bhikshu and others tried to give a more integral interpretation to the whole philosophy of Sankhya. So you have to remember, yoga is the practical, the applied aspect of Sankhya. Sankhya is the doctrinal, the philosophical, the metaphysical aspect of yoga philosophy. It believes in the authority of the Vedas. It doesn't deny or negate the possibility of a creator God, but at the same time, it gives a very intricate and rational interpretation to the whole idea of the world in which we are living. It's called the cosmological aspect of Sankhya philosophy. Now, first of all, in the whole range of cosmology, you find there are 2 broad streams. One, according to one school, here I'm talking about not Indian philosophy alone, the entire cosmological ideas projected by different schools of thought. There are 2 broad streams. According to one stream, according to popular Hinduism, according to 3 Abrahamic religious traditions, and also according to many other minor religious traditions, God creates this world. And the world functions according to God's will, and God sustains this world. He decides what we must do, and He also passes judgment upon what we do. This is the popular monotheistic understanding of the idea of God in world religious thoughts. The other school is God is not one who creates this world. God is a principle. These are two broad ideas. Now, the Sankhya philosophy doesn't deny the possibility of a creator God, but it gives an independent analysis of the cosmology of the universe. It says there are two fundamental categories, ultimate realities. One is the conscious aspect, which is called Purusha. That's the word used. Purusha means it is conscious. It is endowed with the power of creativity, intelligence. The other one is Prakriti. Prakriti in the sense it is the first evolute. It is the original cause, the first cause. So it's something called Pratana, means the first cause of the universe. So according to the Sankhya philosophy, which again, remember, is a philosophy behind yoga also. Now, according to the Sankhya system and also yoga system, there are two fundamental categories, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is conscious, intelligent principle, but it is totally inactive. It is a witness. It is our true nature. It is the intelligent principle. It is consciousness itself. It is a witness. Then there is a Prakriti. Prakriti is totally different from Purusha. It is unconscious. Simply Jada means it is unconscious. And it is the first cause of the universe. It's called Prathanam. It is in a way the unmanifested dimension of existence. The whole universe is coming out of this Prakriti. Now, before going further, there is another interesting aspect of the yoga cosmology. Yoga cosmology tells us that creation is not in a straight line progression, beginning at one point and moving forward. The whole creation as such is an ongoing process. So, creation, existence, dissolution, again creation. This is what's called the periodic cycle, which according to Sankhya and Yoga system is called Kalpa. That's why many modern thinkers, philosophers, and also some scientists who have the courage, the boldness to come out of the so-called scientific fanaticism and try to connect with philosophy. They sometimes write, and they project these ideas that the Sankhya system of creation is perfectly in tune with modern scientific technological theories. One of the classical example was Virchow Capra, who is the author of the two bestsellers, was a professor here, Berkeley. The Turning Point and the Tao of Physics. Now, the idea is this, I'm coming back to the subjects. So the whole existence doesn't move in a straight line progression. It's moving in cycles. So the cause is subtle, the effect is gross. Nothing new comes into existence. You can't say that a mango seed comes into existence from the mango tree, because that tree came into existence from another mango seed. So, if that original mango seed had not given birth to this mighty mango tree, you don't get these mango fruits or seeds. So, which came first? Which came last? So, the seed is the causal dimension, The tree is the effect dimension. The seed also goes back and becomes a tree, and the tree also produces seeds. The fact that the tree is involved in a subtle form within the seed, that state, the potential possibility of the seed to become the tree, is called the doctrine of involution. And the process of the seed becoming the tree is called the doctrine of evolution. So evolution is nothing but the transformation from the causal to the effect dimension, from the subtle to gross dimension. Now, one single periodical cycle is called kalpa, and the beginning of the so-called creation, which is really not creation but projection, is called srishti in Sanskrit language, which doesn't translate into the English word creation. Srishti is sometimes called sarga, is nothing but projection. Projection of the subtle in gross dimension is called srishti. And then this evolved world, universe, going back, getting dissolved back, returning to the subtle dimension is called involution. That's exactly the Sankhya theory of creation. I shall come to that. So the point to remember is, according to Sankhya philosophy, there is no such thing as a creation in the sense that something totally new comes into existence. The effect already pre-exists in cause. And the cause is the subtle dimension. When it becomes gross, when it becomes manifest, when it starts manifesting, it is called creation. Again, remember, creation is a problem because the school of creationists believe that the world did not exist before God created it. So the world came into existence when it was created by God. So the school of creationism, the school of evolutionism. I'm not going to its theological or scientific nomenclature, but that's not the purpose behind. So always the vocabulary is a problem in any school of philosophy. So what I want to stress is, in Sankhya system, there is no creation but projection. Projection is nothing but the projection of the subtle in gross dimension. And the subtle appearing to have become the gross is called manifestation. And the same gross dimension at one point gets dissolved is called dissolution. If there is a cosmic nuclear war, for example, let it not happen, but suppose it happens, and the whole Earth planet gets destroyed. And maybe after billions of years, the condition of the planet may resemble some of the planets or other members of the galaxy where there is no human habitation. So the idea is, there is no such thing as something completely getting destroyed or something completely coming into existence, altogether new. So there are two views. One view is that the cause is taking the form of effect. In other words, the effect already existing, pre-existing in cause. It is technically called Satkaryavada in Indian philosophical tradition. Satkaryavada means the doctrine that effect pre-exists in cause. There is no creation. The so-called creation is nothing but the manifestation of the cause in the form of the effect. This theory has got two broad streams according to Sankhya and Yoga philosophers. The whole cause evolves and becomes effect. Prakriti undergoes the process of evolution and becomes this whole universe. So the cause undergoes the process of evolution and becomes the universe. According to Advaitins, the cause doesn't really undergo evolution. The cause appears to have become this universe. I'm not going to those technical things, but if there'll be a question and answer session, so those who are interested can ask further questions. Now coming back to this subject, why there is a reason why I'm referring to this. The 16th sutra can be properly understood only if you know the Sankhya philosophical landscape. The 16th sutra is Tatparam Purushakyadehi Gunavaitrushnim. This is the sutra, the 16th sutra. That absolute, complete detachment, which is supreme, is the detachment to the fundamental gunas or characteristics which create this Prakriti. And that helps us to get a true understanding of our true nature. That is the real translation of the 16th sutra. That's why Purusha is the word used here. Purushakhyadi means the knowledge of our true nature. Purusha is our true nature, the conscious, the witness. We are not actors in this world. We consider ourselves to be actors, but actually we are all witnesses. Our true nature is the agent of witnessship, not participating in the drama of life, but witnessing the drama. All the problems, including all psychiatric problems, depression, psychosis, phobia, manic depressive psychosis, melancholia, everything is all due to our misidentification. We believe that we are actors. And when we are actors, when we pretend, when we try to be actors, we suffer and we enjoy. If we want enjoyment, then we have to suffer. Both are interrelated. The moment we are able to witness the whole drama of our life, with a strong conviction that we are witnessing the drama, we are the witness, then all the problems come to an end. In fact, the meditation, mindfulness, all these ideas really originated from the Sankhya system. Because in Sankhya system, our true nature is Purusha. We are the conscious, the eternal, supreme principle, not the actor, but the witness. But then, when Prakriti gets involved, when we mistake Prakriti to be in proximity with Purusha, which is called Samyoga, all these universe, mental universe, actions, all the attachments, all these problems start. And then we start identifying ourselves as being involved in this drama of life. And then we look upon ourselves as actors. And so long as we are actors, we will be suffering as well. Because remember, the purpose of yoga is to put an end to suffering. Tritapa means the three types of sufferings. Sufferings due to mental impulses, emotions, psychological emotions, bodily emotions, which is called adhyatmika, and then sufferings which may be caused by other members of creation, animals, birds, beasts, etc., called adhibhautika, and the third school called adhidaivika, which is supernatural, maybe due to different causes which are not within our power to control. So all human sufferings, whether we feel fatigue, we get depressed, we become apprehensive, become anxious, we feel dejected. All these are due to our identification with this actorship, which is a very, very minor role. Our true nature is the ever-conscious, the witness, the Purusha. So once we realize this fact that we are really Purusha, that's our true nature, then all problems come to an end That's the idea behind. So the 16th sutra is Tatparam Purushakhyadehi Gunavaitrushnyam. Not even to be attached towards gunas, that's very important. Guna, that's again requires some explanation. According to Sankhya philosophers, and that's a view of Patanjali also, Prakriti, which is the original cause of this entire universe, is constituted by 3 gunas. Gunas, well, when I explain what gunas are, we will understand. Gunas are 3 in number: Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. There are certain words, certain concepts that we understand only when we explain it. So, those who are, say, mentally balanced, serene, informed and knowledgeable, they can be called people endowed with sattvic gunas, the higher characteristics. So light, knowledge, serenity, balance, equipoise, tranquility, all these are characteristics of people endowed with sattva guna. Our purpose to reach that stage, which is really the state of witness, there will be no problem. Our association, our identification, our obsession with what goes around us, either in the external world or within our own mind, doesn't solve the problem. It only makes us bound. So mentally, if we can detach ourselves from these, then we can increase this sattva guna, higher spiritual qualities. The highest level. So knowledge, serenity, mental poise, free from anxiety. Remember, it doesn't mean inaction. Sattva guna does not mean inaction. It means going beyond the shackles of action. Some of the greatest and most active spiritual leaders the world has produced were embodiments of sattva guna, but they were never really bothered about their action, though they were really active. The second category is Rajo guna, which is like a pendulum of a clock. From one extreme to another extreme, it swings. Either extreme attachment and extreme aversion. Hatred towards certain things and extreme love for certain other things. That's a normal nature of human beings. That's our normal nature. When we hate something, it means that hatred is the other side of extreme attachment to something else. If we get attached to something, it means we have its opposite to something else. The pendulum doesn't stand in the middle. If it reaches one end, then when it leaves the that extreme, it has to move all the way till it reaches the other extreme. So both extremes and a middle pendulum. That's the nature of people endowed with Rajo guna. For example, a saint or sage who can be active, think and do things for others, but absolutely detached. Sattva guna. And hyperactive, extremely obsessed people who are always active. And there are some people who will tell you, well, I have a wonderful quality and they're very proud of it. I should be always active. I can never remain quiet. It is not a spiritual quality. It is a big bondage, it's a big liability. They're endowed with Rajo guna. And the lowest level, we have got Tamo guna, which is related to inaction, lethargy, laziness, ignorance, and total misunderstanding. Nidra alasya pramadoktam tattamasam udahridam. Gita gives a very psychological definition to Tamo guna. Always being sleepy, mentally also sleepy, means dull, cannot think, physically also lazy, ignorance, and along with that mistaking one for the other, black for the white and white for the black, and so on. So these are the three characteristics into which the entire human character, human attitudes and behavior patterns can be divided, classified. Those who are equipoised, and those who are extremely active, and those who are dull and totally inactive. Our goal is to reach the stage where we are always active, but always in a state of complete non-attachment. So, Gita gives the picture of a person who has reached this highest sattva guna. Meanwhile, I must tell you, the whole creation comes out of some disturbance in this equilibrium of sattva, raja and tamo gunas. Our purpose is to reach the sattva guna. So Gita gives a graphic description of a person who is established in sattva guna. Suppose you think of an ocean. The ocean always is in a state of perfect peace and equilibrium. Well, if you look at the ocean for a few miles, you find waves and maybe mountain waves as big as mountains. But if you take the whole entire ocean, the world as a whole, 3/4 of the world continues to be water. In that sense. So the picture is the picture of an ocean which is comparatively peaceful and calm. That's the imagery. Some hundreds of rivers, thousands of rivers pour their waters into that ocean. The ocean doesn't get disturbed. If one of the rivers enters a small pool or a pond, it will overflow. But the ocean remains totally undisturbed. The ocean doesn't block the flow of the rivers. Ocean doesn't tell the rivers, don't come to me. The ocean doesn't welcome the rivers, please come to me. It totally non-attached. It is not inactive, but at the same time it is not hyperactive. So apuryamanam achala pradishtam samudramapa pravishanti yaddut taddut kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. This is the meaning. Who attains peace of mind? A very interesting description. Who is the one who attains peace of mind? The one who can remain like an ocean. Who doesn't either repulse or welcome the flow of rivers as they pour their waters into it. Remaining always in a state of equipoise, tranquility and balance. That's the characteristic of a person who reaches the highest level of sattva guna. This can be reached only by the practice of what Patanjali calls here vairagyam. In its highest sense, vairagyam enables us to get purushakyadi, the knowledge of our true nature. This is Patanjali's view. Now I would say something more about the so-called evolution, and we'll come back to the sutra, because these philosophical ideas, the whole landscape of the metaphysical and epistemological aspect of yoga philosophy should be kept in mind to fully enjoy the depth of yoga system. Even if you're practicing hatha yoga, yogic postures, this knowledge will enrich you. In fact, it can help you to practice the physical aspect of yoga much more efficiently, and it will give you a sense of meaningfulness of even some of the higher yogic practices. That's why it is so very important. Now I would say something about this evolution. So I said at the very beginning, in the yoga and Sankhya philosophy, there are two ultimate realities, absolute categories. One is Purusha, which is witness, the grand witness, not the actor, but the witness. The other is Prakriti. The whole universe evolves after Prakriti. The cause always is present in the effect, But effect can never be completely independent of the cause, because the effect pre-exists in the cause. First of all, the cosmic intelligence, which is called buddhi or intellect or mahat, is the first evolute. From that, ahankara, the ego system. From the sattvic dimension of ahankara, mind comes. The rajasic dimension of ahankara, the 5 senses of perception, 5 senses of action, jnanendriyani, karmendriyani comes. From the tamasika dimension of ahankara, the subtle tanmatras come, and then from the pancha tanmatras, 5 tanmatras, the entire universe, 5 elements emerge, evolve. This is a picture. I shall explain this further in the next class. So today we will have an interaction for 15 minutes. The reason is for the next 2 Friday evenings there will be no class here because of we have some other engagements. There will be no class the next 2 Fridays, November 27 and December 5. The next class will be on Friday, December the 12th at 7:30. Now you can ask questions. If you have no questions at all, then I will go back to the text.
What is a tanmatra?
Oh, Pancha Tanmatra. Pancha Tanmatra is the subtle elements of the 5 gross elements. The fire, Akasha, the ether, the fire, the water, the earth, and the fire. So, Akasha, that is ether, fire, Agni, then air, it's Vayu, then Prithvi, that is earth, and water. These are the subtle 5 dimensions. And out of this, the 5 gross dimensions emerge. After the whole universe is constituted by the 5 gross dimensions. Akasha means ether, air is Vayu, fire is Agni, and earth is Prithvi, and Jalam is water. These 5 elements, gross elements, constitute the universe in which we are living. But behind these 5 gross elements, Pancha Mahabhutas, there is Pancha Tanmatra, the subtle dimension, which is the fire principle, the ether principle, the air principle, the earth principle, and the water principle.
What does it mean by principle?
Principle is the subtle dimension. Well, from a scientific point of view, we can say what is the HO2, hydrogen, oxygen. That's the that's the subtle dimension of water. Earth also. Earth has got a certain characteristics. Earth has got one characteristic, it could smell. Gandhavadi Prithvi, that's Vedantic text earlier. Sky is vast. The sky is the dimension, the principle of vastness, infinitude, etc. There, constant blowing, all this. So all these 5 elements, Pancha Mahabhutas, derive the essential characteristics. You cannot think of fire without 2 of its fundamental characteristics, heat and light. You can never think of water without its fundamental characteristic. It is cool. You can never think of earth without some fundamental characteristics that are integral part of the earth as an entity. So these integral, essential characteristics constitute the subtle principle part. Is the earth just the soil that we find? Behind the earth, there are certain subtle elements which constitute the earth. That is the Sankhya view. These 23 evolutes plus Prakriti 24, these are the 24 categories according to Sankhya philosophy. Any other?
What is the role of consciousness
In creation?
Yeah.
In fact, Purusha or consciousness doesn't play any role in this. The whole evolution takes place from Prakriti. So Prakriti is the evolute. Remember, the Sankhya system tells you that there is one single first cause. It's not God or God's will from which the entire universe emerges. That is the uniqueness of Sankhya philosophy, Yoga philosophy. There is one fundamental first cause for the whole creation, including mind. Not only the empirical universe, human mind, and all the human faculties, they are all evolutes of Prakriti. They become functional when the reflection of Purusha, when Purusha gets reflected on these things. Without the reflection of Purusha, the self, our mind won't have the faculty of cognition, feeling, or thinking. That's the idea behind. These are all cheap, well, from a modern point of view, let us say, suppose a man dies, there are many people who die without any illness. It is possible. Something leaves that person. When that entity deserts him, he may be a healthy person, but he can't do anything. What is that which leaves him? And what enabled that body, that entity, to function when before the person died? It is the reflection of the Purusha. The Purusha's reflection vanishes. Again it goes back to its ordinary Prakriti level, Jada. So Prakriti is unconscious. Prakriti doesn't have consciousness. It is Jada, it is called. Purusha is Chaitanya, is conscious. So everything that is functional in this world, the intellect is able to cognize, the mind is able to feel, you're able to work with your hands, able to see with your eyes. All these are possible because the Purusha's reflection is on all these things. If the Purusha goes away, it's only dead entity. That's the idea behind. The difference is, in other ordinary theistic systems, God just gives you this power and you accept it. But in Sankhya system, the goal is to go back to the cause. You start your inquiry with the effect. And then finally you try to understand the nature of the cause. If there are 1,000 pots in the world made of clay, instead of trying to understand, measure each clay pot individually, you break one, try to find out the characteristics of the clay out of which these pots are made. That's why Sankhya system is supposed to be very scientific. Science also tries to find out the cause, starting the inquiry with the effect. Sankhya system also. That's why Sankhya system is the first human attempt to make a free and rational and scientific inquiry from effect to cause.
So let's start right from the beginning. So we have Prakriti and Purusha. So nothing had happened. Now the Prakriti has those three gunas. Now the next evolute is Buddhi.
Yes, Buddhi Mahat, yes.
Yeah. So how from the Prakriti to Buddhi, is it purely the gunas which do it, or does Purusha play a role as well?
Now, Purusha doesn't play any role here. What happens, Purusha's role is that it gets reflected in spite of itself. It doesn't play a role in this. The whole evolution is compared in Sankhya text as a drama which the Prakriti plays in front of Purusha. There is the Sankhya Karika, which is a famous book by Ishvara Krishna, explained this with the help of an analogy. The whole creation is nothing but a play which takes place in front of Purusha, without the Purusha being involved in the whole drama. That's the idea behind. So, the first evolute is the cosmic intelligence, Mahat or Buddhi, from that egoism, and from there, from the three dimensions of the ecosystem, sattva, raja and tama, the whole creation, evolution takes place. So the subtler, the former, and the grosser, the latter. Effect is always gross, and the cause is always subtle. The subtlest of the whole process is Prakriti. And Prakriti is the first cause, it's called Pradhanam.
So Buddhi comes from the imbalance that gets created among gunas.
Yes. Without disturbance in the equilibrium, the whole creation cannot take place. The state is called Samyavastha, the equilibrium. Well, that's why the idea, indirectly if you find, there is one idea common in all religious traditions, in all religious spiritual traditions. What's the idea? This state of life is a state of imperfection. That's why the concept of liberation comes. But God comes to liberate us. Whether the Hindu understanding of liberation or moksha, this concept of moksha, the Christian concept of the kingdom of heaven, all these imply one important idea, that the present state is a state of imperfection, inadequate state. We must outgrow this state, we must go beyond this state. So, but in different religious traditions, the problem was solved. The easiest way to solve the problem is to say that God one day sat somewhere and decided, let there be world. And this idea, in its different aspects, you find in popular Hindu mythological tradition, the Puranas, you find this Srishti, creation, God, Vishnu, Brahma created this world. So in the biblical Genesis or in all other Abrahamic traditions, everywhere you find this idea, that which is a simple way. But Sankhyas are remarkable for their boldness and scientific temper. They say, well, we have no problem if God is involved, but we will try to solve the problem in a very scientific, rational way, trying to analyze the whole process of human life. So Sankhya cosmology is supposed to be very scientific. That's the idea behind. You ask a scientist, he may not be able to refute many of the doctrines of Sankhyas. If you read other works, there is a surprising degree of similarity. I'm not a scientist, but that's the way of many scientists. And we can read the books, that's all. The surprising similarity between the idea of creation, as you find in the agnostic and atheistic scientific community, and also in the Sankhya system. So please remember, we will conclude now. The next class is on September 12, Friday, September 12 at 7:30 p.m. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I used it wrong. Sorry. December 12, Friday, December 12. We will have no class on November 27 and December 5. Next class will be on December 12, okay, Friday. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. That's it. Sri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.